This is Leah with Backyard Homestead in Starkville, Mississippi, and out in the garden this morning we've had a lot of changes in the last couple of days, so I wanted to do a good garden update and just tell what's changed, what we've removed, what we've added, and update the garden with that. I'll start over here on the side. This is our eggplant, and the type of seed was Orient Express. So these are looking really big and pretty and nice. Get over here in here, some real big pretty ones. So we are going to get out later and harvest these. It's about time. It'll be our first time we pick these this year, but every plant has one or two on it and they're looking nice. Let's see, right beside the eggplant, this is our potato bed, and these are our red Lesotho potatoes, and the foliage is starting to die back, and we are going to start, we've gotten under here and peaked, and so we're starting to see some potatoes under here, so we may get under here and snitch a few and have for a meal today, have for part of our meal today. And this time of year is so nice in the garden because we basically are eating exclusively out of the garden in the yard. It's wonderful. Okay, right there is the red Lesotho potato bed I've showed. Over here, this is the row where we harvested, one of the rows where we harvested our candy onions, and we have gone down the center of this row and we planted pink eye purple hull peas, and they're not up yet. We just did this the other day. Sorry, didn't get a video, but we just got out and we're working in the garden. And in the middle of this row, let me zoom in, we have a volunteer sunflower that is huge. It's almost up to the power line coming to the house, but pretty fun. So we're just letting him go, but he's right in the middle of what's going to be our pea patch. And let's see, this row right beside the pea patch, this is where our squash was, and the squash finally gave up, so we removed the squash and we went down and we planted hills of okra. So we have okra on this row now in between what will be our pea patch, and these are our Better Boy tomatoes. And these Better Boys have been showing out. They are doing great. We're getting tomatoes off them every day. They're sweet and delicious, and having fresh tomatoes to eat every day. Wonderful. They're doing great. I mean, great big, huge, beautiful clusters of tomatoes. And they're delicious. All the way down the row. And this end of the row gets a lot more light. So this end is stronger. But even down on the weak end of the row, we're getting tomatoes. So enjoying that. This is the area beside our strawberry bed, and this is another area we had candy onions here. We harvested them, and we also had more red Lesotho potatoes planted on the side of this bed. So we're going to probably get out and go ahead and harvest all these just to get them out of the way so we can go ahead and plant something else in this bed. The other place we have our red Lesotho's are over here, and we may just kind of keep snitching a few of these here and there to eat and not do a major harvest and dig them all yet because there's still life in the foliage. We're going to let them keep going. Alright, so pea patch here, okra planted here, Better Boy tomatoes, and on the other side of these Better Boys, this is the area where we had the Provider green beans, the bush green beans growing, and they were so infested with spider mites, we were just getting tiny little harvests off of them. So we went ahead and removed those. Sorry, again, didn't do video on that. We just got out here and worked and I didn't think about it. But we pulled the Provider bush green beans here and planted 2 rows of pink eye purple hull peas. And they are not up at all yet. We're gonna keep watching them. It should be any time now. And we also had a row of the Provider green beans over here at the bottom of this climbing green bean fence, and they weren't doing well anymore either. They played out, so we went ahead and removed them and planted a second crop of Roma tomatoes. So we just got them in, and they took the transplant well, and they're looking good. This row of rattlesnake climbing green beans are starting to make a little, but this row, I mean, we've got one little bean hanging here, but this row just does not, I think it's light, so it's not doing much. We're not gonna remove them. We're gonna let them go, but we went ahead and planted Romas on the front of it and just see if either one of them will do well in this low light area. This is one of our fig trees back behind the garden, and it is starting to put on some little figs. A bunch of them on this branch. So looking forward to some ripe figs. Alright, so I'm going to swing. This is the side of the garden I just showed. And then on the other side of the yard, we have another garden. And on this side, we have our chickens. These are our girls, tucked in here in the back. You can see, let me zoom in over there. Behind the chicken coop, or the chicken run area, that is our catfish pond. And we're getting ready to do a harvest on those too. We'll share that with you when we do it. Also in this back area, we have our quail. We have 2 quail hutches. So we have quail, catfish in the pond, and chickens all in this back corner of the yard. And then growing on the fence to the chicken run, we have cucumbers. And these are the little pickling cucumbers. They're so good. We love these. We grew these and some great big long straight 8 cucumbers last year. And I didn't care for the longer ones, the big ones. So we are stuck with the pickling cucumbers this year. But we've got some that are getting ready to pick. See if I can find one of those right now. You know they hide in here. Let's see. Of course, since I want to show you one. They are just starting to make. There's little bitty guys hanging all on here. And there's a bigger one somewhere. I can't find it right now. But I'm going to do a harvest video later. And when I find it, I'll show it to you. So we've got cucumbers on this fence. And then this row, beside the cucumbers, these are our rattlesnake climbing green beans. And they are still doing really well. They haven't slowed down. We're going to get out here and pick these later. Okay, in between, there's a row of climbing green beans, rattlesnake climbing green beans here, and then another row of the climbing rattlesnake green beans on this side. And in between, we have planted bush butter beans. And I've never seen these do as well as they're doing. We don't have any beans on them yet, but the plants themselves are lush and green and gorgeous. And sometimes when you have these great big beautiful healthy plants, they won't bloom and they won't put on beans, but these are blooming really heavily too. So I'm hoping this is going to be a great butterbean year. I mean, I don't know yet, but judging from all these beautiful blooms, and there's a tiny little bean right there. So I sure hope these make. I love butter beans. I love green beans. I love garden food. But I have really high hopes for these butter beans. I hope I'm not disappointed. But it's gorgeous through here. Just a green alley. And on the other side of this pole of the climbing rattlesnake green beans, we have 2 more rows of the bush butter beans. And again, both these rows are just gorgeous. I've never seen them look better. And they're putting on beans and they're blooming heavy. So, I mean, I can't imagine why we wouldn't get a good crop out of these. Fingers crossed, I'm hoping, but it looks really promising. Okay, and on this fence, we've got Roma tomatoes, and they are doing well and looking good. I need to get in here and tie these up more. Some of them are, they definitely need tying, so I'll get in here and do that later today. But they're putting on tomatoes and still blooming really well. So these moving along, doing great. And we have 2 fences of the Roma tomatoes. Well, and that other row I just showed you, that's our later planting. In between these 2 rows of Roma tomatoes, these are our Provider bush green beans, and we're still getting some off of this. They're starting to definitely slow down, so we're going to keep picking them for a while. We're still getting some off of it, but we'll be thinking about what we're going to do next in here pretty soon too, this area. This is our other row of Roma tomatoes. Need to get in here and tie these up as well, but they're looking happy and healthy, doing well. And on the other side of these Romas, this is our row of Swiss chard, and it is still doing great. I've got to think it's going to be getting a little too hot for it pretty soon, so I think I'm going to start picking this more heavily than we have been. I mean, we eat pretty often, at least 2-3 times a week, but I think I'm going to cut it and go ahead and can some of it just before it gets too hot for it. But right now it still seems happy. It's doing well. Okay, in these buckets we have poblano peppers, and they're not doing great. We think we're probably going to move these buckets down to a sunnier area, because this one's pretty poor. This one's a little bit better. This on the end is pretty nice, but it's still not doing like it should. So we just think they're not getting enough light. So we're going to move these buckets out here to this area where it's more in the open. Right now it's shady, but when the sun comes up a little more, this whole strip here is much, much sunnier. So we're going to move those buckets out and so give them a better chance. Right, on this little stretch right here, that one, how many is it? 4 of these. These are banana peppers, and they seem pretty healthy, pretty happy and healthy. They're starting to put on little peppers. And then this is the area, this whole side of the garden over here, this is the area where our corn was. And so we removed it, and we already had peppers started in, we started them in flats, and then we transferred them to the cups, and they were ready to set out. So we put our peppers over here, and these 2 rows right here and right here are Cubanelle, and they're doing pretty well for the most part. It looks like we lost one, that 6th one over there. He died, but he looks like the only casualty out of the peppers so far. These are Carmen. Sorry, these 6 in this area are Carmen. So we've got 2 rows of Cubanelle, 2 rows of Carmen, and this row is Cayenne. So real hot cayenne peppers. Okay, we've got peppers on this side nearest me, and then behind the peppers, up against the fence, we have 8 okra plants. And one of them, a couple of them are starting to bloom. Pretty. Oh, we've got our first pot of okra. Yay. So this one, we've got blooms. Oh man, I'm throwing a shadow on it. Blooms, and our first tiny little pot of okra. Fun. And all these appear to have taken the transplant really well. There's one that looks like, down on the end, that looks like it's suffering a little, but all in all, really, really good. And our zinnias are starting to come on and look pretty. We've got zinnias on the fence. Not putting on a show yet, but pretty good. And we planted a few cucumbers on the fence as well. In this bed, this is our asparagus bed, and we have mammoth jalapenos, and they are happy and healthy and huge. They're growing really well. Got peppers on here. See if I can find a couple of those peppers. Yeah, big, pretty peppers. And these are some of our favorite, the mammoth jalapeno. And they grow big, nice, fat jalapeno peppers. So mammoth jalapeno behind here. We've got portulaca and marigolds planted in the blocks, in the holes of the cinder blocks. Marigolds haven't started blooming yet, but the plants are really healthy looking. And the portulaca is growing, and it's starting to bloom and put on a pretty little show. This area, we swing back around, this again is the patch where we had the corn planted, and we removed the corn, harvested it and removed it, and we haven't planted anything here yet. We have to decide what we want to do with this little chunk. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5-ish rows. We may either plant some more peas or maybe start some more peppers from seed and plant them here. We're not sure yet. And that disturbed earth down here, this is where we harvested the elephant garlic the other day. And this tiny little tip over here on the corner of this bed, these are our multiplying onions, and we cut them down pretty much to nothing, but they're starting to come back now. And I think that is about it. This is the strip I was talking about where the stepping stones are. We're going to probably move those buckets of peppers over here because this area actually gets some sunlight. Most of our garden, we have to pick and choose what to plant where because it's so shady back here. There's so many oaks. So many oak trees everywhere. We had a bunch of ours removed, but you can't get the neighbor's trees removed. So we're surrounded by oaks. But that's it. I just wanted to show you, let everybody know the changes we made, and show a good garden update. And everything seems to be doing pretty well right now. We're getting lots to eat fresh and plenty to put up for the winter. And that's it. Thanks for watching.